So, good afternoon. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Raymond.
What have you got today? What's the chat about today?
Today is, as you know, I get quite annoyed about Agile and the way we use this weird terminology to confuse things. I don't think it's deliberate, but it doesn't help. And probably more importantly, the things we get confused about are actually quite simple, but it puts up a barrier. So it makes it difficult for people to understand. And that just annoys me because it's unnecessary. And what's more important, perhaps, is Agile or often offers some really good ideas. So let's not make it more difficult to pick up on these good ideas.
Okay,
Um, so
I get
retrospective.
it. Retrospective. Okay.
so
Now,
retrospective.
yep.
I remember talking to someone maybe a couple of years ago, 18 months ago. I was introduced to her as someone who wanted an agile coach, and I was interested in working in it. I happened to work for the Royal College of Psychiatry, actually, oddly enough. And we had a conversation. We talked about various things, but I just talked to her about, say, just agile. Don't worry too much about agile. But the conversation turned towards, led me to a point where I realized that her team weren't talking about their work. They were just doing stuff. They were just doing things, but they never spent any time reflecting on why they were doing it and how they were doing it and whether it was actually achieving the purpose or even maybe agreeing what the purpose was. So to me, that was, you need a retrospective,
Mm,
because a retrospective is an opportunity to talk about how you do things. But I never used that terminology, or I might have thrown it at the end and said, "Oh yeah, that's called a retrospective, by the way." But the concept is simple for me. It's just we do our work quite a lot, but often we don't spend the time talking about how we've done our work
yeah.
and learning about it. And there's a
Mm,
few reasons why that might be, but retrospective, whatever, that's all it is.
okay. So, yeah, I get what you mean, Alex. I think for me, I'll tell you a story, right? I've been in one of my experiences where we had a rule not to use the word agile.
Okay,
It's quite interesting what
like
people
that
do.
rule.
So, so I think what you're saying does apply, and I think having a retrospective can make a team be agile. Now, that's because there are a few steps to retrospective. So a good retrospective will assume you set the stage, you gather data, you generate insight, then you decide what to do, and then you take an action. That's probably the fundamental steps of a retrospective. And I think the key thing there is taking an action. So to your point, you're taking an action on what? On what we're building or the behavior of a team, how we built the stuff and what we built. And then you reflect on those actions in order to change that behavior. So in the true nature, you are changing and adapting
Yeah,
either to your customer behavior or to the team behaviors. So equals to agility. So you can talk about retrospective without saying the word agile. But
mm.
the agile becomes the output.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's
So I think that's a
can
good
I
that's a good argument around using retrospective and not using agile.
yeah, definitely. And can I add something to your list? Because
What do you want to add to it? Yeah, go for it.
that was a really good list, and often sometimes I forget some of the basic things like data, and data can be over. We can overthink data as well. Data can be a conversation. So,
Yep.
oh, excuse me, that's right, just phone calling. So it was just, yeah, for me, thing that just immediately the red flag went up was ground rules. So when I say ground rules, one of the reasons for me when people have difficulty doing that is because it can be difficult to have that conversation. And the reason for that for me boils down to, I mean, I don't know how complete this is, but my basic rule is that if we have a conversation that talk recognizes that it's probably nothing to do with individuals 99% of the time, it's to do with the
Mm-hmm,
way we work together and our relationships.
mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier to have that conversation. But a way of doing that as well is not using, I've sort of been coming across recently about using the I word. So I think maybe Raymond, you may have mentioned, so I can't remember, but just using I phrases. So what was my experience? Not what you did, but what was my experience? So if we can reflect on our own experience, like, I was frustrated because I was waiting
Yeah.
for this thing to arrive, for example,
Yeah.
then no one can argue against that. That's how you felt. That was your experience. But as soon as I start saying, well, Raymond, when you did that thing, or Raymond, you were quite annoying because of this, then it gets very heated and difficult. So to me, those are simple ground rules that suddenly take the emotional energy out of this when it's
Yeah.
negative and it's judgmental.
Mhm.
We shouldn't be judging. We should be saying, well, something went wrong there. Let's see if we can be open-minded and curious about what went wrong. But the only way we can do that is if we don't start leaping to assumptions and conclusions about other people and the way they operate, which is very easy to do. We do all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I agree with you, Alex. I think I know it's not like, I think if I look at the things I've just mentioned, most of these ground rules are established when you want to set the stage.
Yeah.
So this is why when it comes to retrospective, it's a very, I mean, bringing back the whole thing. So if I use Scrum, for example, and if I use the word Scrum, or if I use the word Agile ceremonies, for the sake of it, the best ceremonies are like the best ceremony I do really appreciate and recognize and I do like is retrospective. I mean,
Mm,
I can play around with any ceremonies, but I don't play around with retrospective.
mm,
So there's a bit of me that believes that you need to set the ground rules, and that's part of setting the stage. So that this is where it becomes why people advise retrospective facilitators to be an independent person who is not part of the team.
yeah.
Sometimes you're better off not part of the team, so you can facilitate a proper retrospective. And this is why you encourage like a scrum master in agile times, or you bring a coach in, or if you are really a good independent facilitator, then you could go away with doing that if you're still part of the team.
Mm,
That would require some great techniques around it. So to your point, yes, the ground rules are very important, and that's part of setting the stage. When you
yeah.
set the stage for retrospective, you have to create that environment where people are safe to share stuff, where people are safe to know that what I share, it's almost like the whole lingo, right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
You say what you say, it remains here, it doesn't go anywhere. And I think that is the behavior and the power of retro.
Mm,
And also it depends on the technique you're planning to use that day to extract the data you want. So what insights you want to gather that day, or what data do you want to gather? So a lot would tell on your preparation. So you don't just rock up to a retrospective. Don't just rock up and say, let's do a retro. I mean, that happens rarely the case, but it'd be good for you to study the team. Who are you going to meet? How many people in the room? Where are we having this thing?
yeah.
Um, and all that kind of preparation and the ground rules and the behaviors of the team. And I think that goes a long way to the prep work and all that stuff. So yeah, you're right. Ground rules are important, and that's part of setting the stage.
Yeah. Definitely. We could probably go quite a lot deeper into this because it's one of those things that's quite simple on the surface.
Yeah.
When you start digging into, data, let's talk about data and how do you have those conversations? It's
Yeah. And
it's
who
what,
do you have in the room? If you have a
yeah,
leader in the room who needs coaching, then you better not do a retrospective because nobody's going to tell you the truth.
mm,
If
yeah,
you have a leader who says, "Oh, go on, tell me, how do you feel?" And when you finish saying what you said, your job is not guaranteed. Then why talk about it? Might as well keep your mouth shut.
yeah. Sounds like a manager and a leader to me, but yeah,
But you know what I mean. So
yeah, yeah,
it takes a lot to set the stage for a retrospective. You want
mm,
a real honest retrospective. You probably sometimes don't get the leaders in the room.
mm,
Allow the people talk, and give them a safe zone. Sometimes you have that's why you have to do a bit of study on what you're facing and the team
mm.
composition, the team dynamics, the team behaviors, and that will really help you shape what kind of retrospective you want to do.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because as you were saying that, I was thinking Yeah, that sounds about right. But I was thinking, well, I guess it depends what experience you're trying to create, because you could, I mean, just play devil's advocate. If you, there's people, there's learning even from that situation, isn't there? There's learning from that leaders where, what was the dynamic in the room there? Were people talking? Were people contributing? Were they quiet? There's an opportunity for people to learn, and equally in the team members is, everyone didn't really have so much to say. We're really happy with what, it's, there are sort of coaching opportunities, aren't there? But yeah, it depends what your intent is. But equally, you might just end up being in that situation. I suppose you might not have planned that, but there's still learning to come out of it if someone's in the room who's changing the whole dynamic because of their position of power, effectively. Then that's something that could be explored, but perhaps with individuals, perhaps after the fact. So yeah.
So are you happy with the responses so far, Alex?
I am, yeah. I don't. I should. I feel we should draw a line under it before we. I don't know. I think we can maybe come back to this topic again. I'll be interested to see what people have got to say. Maybe there's some areas they want to dive deep into.
Oh, good. Oh, that's good then. All right then. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you.
Good.